The moment I eased my sleek new Rolls-Royce Ghost through the entry gates of Oakwood Estates, an odd tension crept over me. It wasn't just nerves. It was something heavier, like invisible eyes tracking my every move. Maybe it was the sudden hush that blanketed the cul-de-sac as I turned in, or the way blinds shifted as I passed by. But any doubt was erased the second I pulled into the driveway of my new place. I hadn't even cut the engine when I noticed her in the rearview mirror, charging toward me like a storm in pastels. Mid-50s, short blonde bob, crisp pink cardigan flapping like a cape, oversized designer sunglasses perched high on her nose. She marched up the drive with purpose, practically buzzing with indignation. Before I could unbuckle my seatbelt, she was already shouting through the closed window. "Excuse me, who are you and what are you doing with that vehicle?" I stepped out, keys in hand, and kept my voice steady. "Hey there, I'm Jason. Just moved into 1542 today. First day in the neighborhood." She looked me over like she was conducting a TSA inspection. From my clean sneakers to my tucked-in shirt, nothing seemed to satisfy her assumptions of who should be driving a Ghost. "That can't be right," she snapped. "The Millers sold their house to a young professional. You don't even look old enough to rent a car." "I'm 21, I replied with a polite smile. "And yes, I purchased the Miller house. The sale closed last week." Her brows knitted. She began pacing slowly around the car, eyeing it like a stolen artifact. "No one your age should be behind the wheel of something like this," she barked. "Unless it's been stolen. I'm calling the police. We don't tolerate crime in this neighborhood." She pulled out her phone and dialed 911, never taking her eyes off me, as if waiting for me to bolt. I leaned casually against the hood, unfazed. Not my first time being stereotyped by either age or appearance. As the founder of a tech company recently acquired in an 8-figure deal, I'd gotten used to navigating assumptions. "Yes, officer," she said into the phone, voice rising in pitch. "There's a suspicious young man with a luxury car parked at 1542 Oakwood Drive. I suspect auto theft. He doesn't look like he belongs here. Please send someone quickly." I sighed and texted my assistant. "Running late. Neighborhood welcome committee showed up early." Once she hung up, she crossed her arms like she'd just solved a crime. "The police will be here soon. I suggest you stay put," she said, as if I hadn't already made myself perfectly clear. "I'm not going anywhere," I replied calmly. "This is my property. And you are Karen Wellington," she declared, "president of the Oakwood Estates Homeowners Association 6 terms running. And you definitely don't match the type of homeowner we're used to seeing here." Of course, her name was Karen. The universe had a twisted sense of humor. "Well, Karen," I said, retrieving my wallet, "I'm happy to show you proof of ownership. I've got digital copies of the deed, the closing paperwork, whatever you need." She waved it off without so much as a glance. "I've seen fake IDs before, and our HOA has a strict approval process. I don't remember signing off on anyone like you." I didn't miss the way her eyes lingered on my skin tone, not just my age. That familiar mix of disbelief and prejudice sat right under her designer lenses. "Actually, Karen, HOAs don't control home sales. The Millers accepted my offer. It was a legal, binding transaction. Whether you like it or not, I live here now." Her face turned a deeper shade of red. "We'll see about that," she hissed. "And that car, number 21-year-old, can afford something like that unless they're involved in something shady. Are you laundering money? Hacked a bank? Tell the truth." She whipped out her phone again and started taking photos. Of the car, the plates, even me. By now, a few neighbors had peeked out from their porches, drawn to the commotion. Karen, clearly energized by the attention, raised her voice another octave. "I've seen this before," she shouted dramatically. A flashy car shows up, and next thing you know, the neighborhood's crawling with crime. Not happening on my watch. Remaining calm, I opened the glove compartment and pulled out the registration and insurance. "Karen, I'm a tech entrepreneur. My company was acquired last year. Here's proof that this car is mine. Purchased legally, in full, from Beverly Hills Auto Gallery." She squinted at the documents, arms still crossed. Anyone can fake paperwork these days. My nephew works in cybersecurity. He says people like you are getting better at tricking systems. People like me. There it was again. I didn't bother replying. The police would be here soon enough, and when they did, I'd hand them the same documents. Let her embarrassment unfold naturally. All I'd wanted was a quiet move-in day. Instead, I got an interrogation from the neighborhood's self-appointed guardian. But one thing was certain: if Karen was the HOA president, Oakwood Estates was about to get very interesting. It all started when I backed my car into the driveway of my new home. I hadn't even turned off the engine when I caught sight of her. Arms folded, eyes narrowed, standing at the edge of her pristine lawn like a sentry. Her gaze clung to me like I was a burglar mid-heist instead of a man moving into his own house. Seconds later, 2 police cruisers glided into the cul-de-sac. The moment they arrived, her whole demeanor shifted. Her scowl vanished, replaced by a triumphant smirk as if justice had just arrived to fulfill her prophecy. She adjusted her cardigan, walked up to the officers with exaggerated urgency, and struck a dramatic pose. "Officers, thank goodness you're here," she said breathlessly. "I caught this young man pretending to live here. I'm the HOA president. I know every homeowner. He's clearly trespassing." One officer, older and mustached, addressed me. "Sir, we got a call about a potentially stolen vehicle. Mind showing us your ID and registration?" "Sure thing," I replied calmly, handing over the documents. "My name's Jason Chin. I just closed on this place. Today's move-in day, apparently with a side of mistaken identity." While the younger officer checked my paperwork, the older one kept an eye on her. She hovered close, barely able to contain herself. "He's using fake documents," she insisted. "I personally review every application. He wouldn't have made it past the first round. And that car? A Rolls-Royce? No way. He looks like he's barely out of high school." The older officer raised an eyebrow but remained composed. "Ma'am, please step back while we verify." The younger one finished his check. "Everything's valid," he said to his partner. "Car's registered in his name. No issues. Insurance is up to date. House deed transfer was finalized last month." She must have overheard because her voice rose again, this time sharper. "No. Check again. He must have hacked the system. People like him don't drive cars like that." Her words hung heavy in the air. The officer turned slowly toward her, his tone noticeably cooler. "Ma'am, what exactly do you mean by people like him?" She faltered. "I mean young people. 21-year-olds don't buy homes in neighborhoods like this. Something's not right. I'm trying to protect our community." Before she could dig herself in deeper, a neighbor from across the street, older gentleman, quiet sort, approached with his phone in hand. "Officers, if I may," he said. "My doorbell camera caught the whole thing from before you arrived. You'll want to hear what she said." The younger officer asked, "What kind of language are we talking about?" The neighbor hesitated before replying. She said, and I quote, "We don't need his kind dragging down our property values. I'll find a way to get rid of him." And that wasn't the worst of it. Her face turned pale. "That's completely out of context. I was referring to keeping community standards high." The older officer handed my documents back to me. "You're all set, sir. Welcome to the neighborhood." Then, turning to her, he said, "Mrs. Wellington, I need to speak with you privately." They stepped aside. Her hands waved in agitation, voice rising in disbelief. More neighbors had emerged by now, and none of them seemed to be on her side. The energy had shifted. Moments later, the officer began writing. Her voice pitched higher. "You can't be serious. I was doing my duty as HOA president." But then came the moment none of us expected. The officer calmly read her Miranda rights. "Karen Wellington, you are being placed under arrest for filing a false police report and making statements with discriminatory intent. Both are misdemeanors." "This is insane," she cried as they guided her toward the cruiser. "I was protecting our community. This is reverse discrimination. I want your badge." The street fell into stunned silence. For years, she'd ruled with a clipboard, condescension, and constant complaints. And now she was being held accountable, finally. Before the car door closed, her last words were, "Call my attorney. This is a misunderstanding." 1 week later, I got a formal letter from the HOA. She'd been suspended immediately, and at an emergency meeting, a unanimous 27-0 vote resulted in her permanent removal. On top of that, she was fined $5,000 and ordered to complete community service. Word around town was that her real estate agency placed her on indefinite leave after several clients pulled their listings. I saw her at the grocery store a few weeks later. She avoided eye contact, turned red, abandoned her shopping cart, and left the store in a hurry. And just like that, the reign of the neighborhood tyrant was over. Not with a bang, but with a crash of her own making. The look in her eyes said it all. She still couldn't believe it was all gone.